Have you realized that you've spent your whole life waiting for your life to begin? There's a question you've probably never asked out loud, but one you keep repeating silently. When will it be my turn? When will the right relationship come along? When will your career take off? When will you finally feel ready, mature, worthy of being where everyone else already seems to be? And while you wait, time passes, not slowly but too quickly, and you begin to feel something worse than frustration. You begin to feel like you're falling behind. It's not just impatience. It's deeper than that. It's the visceral feeling that there's an invisible calendar marking the deadlines of your life, and you're late. Everyone around you seems to know exactly when things should happen. They graduate at the right age, get married at the expected time, buy a house, have children, build a career. Everything fits together. Everything is on schedule. And you're running behind, always running, but never catching up. And the worst part, you no longer know if you're waiting for things to happen or if you're just waiting to stop feeling guilty for not being there yet. Because no one taught you how to deal with your own pace. They taught you to be afraid of it. They taught you that being late is failure, that delay is deficiency, that if you haven't arrived yet, it's because something is wrong with you. But what if I told you that the problem isn't that you're late? What if the problem is precisely the fact that you believe there is a universal right time for everything, and that this belief is destroying you? Because that's what happens. You grow up hearing that everything has its time, but in practice they give you a schedule, unwritten, unofficial, but as real as any other social law. At 22, you need to have a degree. At 25, a job. At 28, a serious relationship. At 30, stability. At 35, fulfillment. And if you deviate even slightly from this script, something inside you starts screaming. You're wasting time. You're falling behind. You're failing. It's not paranoia. It's conditioning. Since childhood, you've been trained to believe that life has milestones, and that these milestones must be reached in a specific order, at a specific time. First you study, then you work, then you build a family, then you rest. It's linear, it's predictable, it's safe, or at least it should be. But then you look at your life and realize that nothing is following the script. You finish college, but you don't know what to do with your degree. You're working, but you're not building a career. You're in relationships, but none of them seem to be the one. And even when you achieve something, you don't feel that promised fulfillment, because deep down, all you can think is, this should have happened 2 years ago. And then the worst part begins, comparison. You open Instagram and see someone your age buying an apartment. You see your classmate who's already a manager. You see your ex who's already married. You see everyone posting their achievements at the right time, while you're still trying to find yourself. And each post is a silent stab in the back, a confirmation that you're too slow, that you're doing something wrong, that you're not being efficient enough with your own life. You start to wonder, what's wrong with me? Why can everyone else do it and I can't? Why does it seem easy for others and impossible for me? Why am I still here, stuck, while everyone else has already gotten there? And that question, that damn question, becomes the soundtrack of your existence. It's there when you wake up in the morning and realize you're 32 and still living with your parents. It's there when you go to a wedding and someone asks, when's it going to be your turn? It's there when you see your younger cousins already with children, and you don't even know if you want to have children yet. It's there when you realize you're 28, 33, 37 years old, and you're not where you thought you'd be. Do you know what Kierkegaard called the anguish of becoming? It's not fear of the future. It's fear of not reaching the future. It's living eternally in the not yet. I'm not stable yet. I haven't found my purpose yet. I'm not ready yet. Not yet, not yet, not yet. And the more you live in this not yet, the further you stray from what really matters, the now. Because you're so obsessed with what should be happening that you've forgotten to live what is happening. And the cruelest part? No one tells you that this calendar is an invention. No one explains to you that it was built by a society that needs you to be predictable, productive, fit in. No one warns you that you are measuring your life by a ruler that was not made for you. It was made for a system that profits from your anxiety, your haste, your fear of falling behind. And when you don't fit into that schedule, it's not just frustration you feel, it's shame. A deep, visceral shame that makes you avoid family gatherings because you can't stand hearing the same questions anymore. A shame that makes you lie about your own life, make up excuses, and disguise your discomfort with self-deprecating jokes. Because admitting that you're behind seems like admitting that you're less capable, less worthy, less adult than everyone around you. And you know what's worse? You start to internalize that shame. You start to believe it. You stop saying I haven't found what I want yet and start saying I'm indecisive. You stop saying I'm building at my own pace and start saying I'm slow. You turn difference into defect. You turn uniqueness into inadequacy. And little by little, you stop being who you are to try to become who you should be. So you spend your whole life running, rushing decisions, forcing relationships, skipping steps, because you truly believe that if you run fast enough, you'll reach that right moment. You'll finally get to where everyone else already is. You'll finally breathe a sigh of relief and say, "There, now I can live." You accept a job that doesn't excite you because it's time to grow professionally. You enter into a relationship that doesn't fulfill you because you can't stay alone forever. You buy things you don't need because everyone my age already has them. And with each of these decisions, you lose a piece of yourself. Not all at once, but little by little, like someone who bleeds slowly and only realizes they're empty when it's too late. And there's one detail that no one tells you. Even when you reach your milestones, the feeling of being behind doesn't go away, because now you're behind on the next milestone. You get married, but you don't have children yet. You have children, but you don't own your own home yet. You buy a house, but you're not where you should be in your career. It's a race with no finish line, a game you can't win, because the rules change every time you're about to win. But here's the truth that no one wants to tell you. The more you chase the perfect timing, the more you ensure that it will never come. Because perfect timing doesn't exist out there. It only exists when you stop looking for it. So where did this come from? Who was the genius who decided that everyone needs to follow the same script at the same pace to be considered successful? The answer is simple and brutal: the Industrial Revolution. Before it, time was cyclical. People lived to the rhythm of the seasons, the harvests, the natural cycles. There was no delay. There was only the time needed for each thing to mature. But then the factory arrived, and with it the time clock. And suddenly, time ceased to be your ally and became your boss. Time is money. Time is productivity. Time is efficiency. And if you're not being efficient with your time, you're being wasted. You are no longer a person with your own rhythm. You have become a cog that needs to turn at the right speed, or you will be replaced. And this poison did not stay in the factory. It leaked into the rest of life. Today you don't choose when you want to get married. You feel social pressure to get married before it's too late. You don't decide when you want to have children. You hear your biological clock ticking, your family pressuring you, your friends asking. You don't build a career at your own pace. You are pressured for quick results, quick promotions, quick successes. Because wasted time is wasted opportunity, and you can't afford to miss opportunities. Think about it. When was the last time you did something important without thinking? Isn't it too late for that? Starting a new career at 35, going back to school at 40, ending a relationship at 32, moving to a new city at 28. Every decision is accompanied by an inner voice that says, "You should have done this before. You wasted time. Now it will be more difficult." As if there were an ideal window for each choice, and you always miss it by a few years. And then came social media, and it did something even worse. It turned everyone's life into a permanent billboard of achievements. Now you're not just competing with the people around you. You compete with the edited, filtered, cropped version of the lives of everyone you've ever known. And everyone is getting there. Everyone is happy. Everyone is perfectly timed, except you. You see your coworker getting promoted and think, "I should be there too." You see your cousin traveling abroad and think, "Why can't I do that yet?" You see your ex happy with someone new and think, "I should have moved on faster." Every post is proof that you're too slow. Every story is a reminder that you're wasting time. And the more you see, the more you feel you need to speed up. What social media has done is create an illusion of simultaneity. Everyone seems to be achieving everything at the same time, at the same speed, effortlessly. You don't see behind the scenes. You don't see the failed attempts, the years of struggle, the sleepless nights. You only see the end result, and you compare that end result with your process. It's like comparing the last chapter of someone else's book with the first draft of yours. It doesn't make sense, but you do it anyway. So you start to force it. You accept the job you don't want because it's an opportunity. You stay in the relationship that doesn't work because it's too late to give up now. You go to the college your family expects because you're already behind in life. And deep down, you know you're making decisions that aren't yours. But you don't know how to stop anymore, because stopping means falling even further behind. And there's the paradox. You're running so fast to get the timing right that you've completely lost touch with your own rhythm. You no longer know what you want. You only know what you should want. You no longer know what makes sense for you. You only know what makes sense to everyone who's watching you. You've become a stranger to yourself. You spend your days chasing goals you didn't choose, fulfilling expectations that aren't yours, living a life that seems to belong to someone else. And worst of all, you don't even realize it, because the race is so intense, so constant, that you don't have time to stop and ask, "Wait, is this really what I want? Or is it just what I think I should want?" Heidegger said that the greatest danger of modern existence is not death. It is living a life that is not your own. It is waking up at 40 and realizing that you have spent your entire life living at someone else's pace, building the career your father wanted, living in the city your wife chose, being the version of success that society approved. And in the midst of it all, you lost yourself. You stopped being you. Because when you live in someone else's time, you die in your own time. You trade your uniqueness for approval. You trade your journey for predictability. And in the end, you have everything you should have, but nothing you really wanted. And there's a specific moment when this becomes clear. Do you know when? When you finally achieve something that should make you happy? The promotion, the relationship, the house, and you feel nothing. Or worse, you feel an even greater emptiness because you realize that it wasn't yours. It belonged to everyone else but you. You spent years chasing an achievement that meant nothing to who you really are. And at that moment, you have two choices. Keep running, chasing the next milestone that might make you feel something. Or stop. Stop and face the hardest question there is. Who am I when I'm not trying to be who I should be? And then you realize, maybe the problem was never that you were late. Maybe the problem is that you're chasing a destination that isn't yours. And here's what no one told you. Every time you try to speed up the process, you're guaranteeing that it will go wrong. Not because the universe is conspiring against you, but because hasty decisions are never real decisions. They're escapes disguised as choices. Think about how many times you've done something important just to relieve the pressure of time. You accepted that job that looked good on paper because it was taking too long for something else to come along. You got into that relationship that had potential because you were tired of being alone while everyone else already had someone. You chose that city, that course, that life, not because it made sense to you, but because it was time. Because everyone around you had already taken that step. Because you couldn't wait any longer. And at first it seems to work. You breathe a sigh of relief. Finally, you're doing something. Finally, you're moving forward. Finally, you can tell people that yes, you're on the right track, you're building, you're progressing. The anxiety subsides for a while, but then months later, sometimes years later, you wake up and realize you're stuck in a life that isn't yours. You're in a job that drains your energy, in a relationship that doesn't fulfill you, in a routine that feels like a well-decorated prison. And worse, you don't know how you got there. Because leaving means admitting that you made a mistake, that you wasted time, that you are once again behind schedule. So you stay. You convince yourself that it's not that bad, that everyone goes through this, that this is how adulthood works. And you keep putting it off, postponing the real decision, living on autopilot. Because starting over seems impossible. Because starting over means going back to square one while everyone else keeps moving forward. And there's a perverse detail in all this. The longer you spend on the wrong choice, the harder it is to get out. Not only for practical reasons, the investment of time, the fear of starting over, but for emotional reasons. Because admitting that you spent 3, 5, 7 years on something that wasn't for you hurts too much. It's like looking in the mirror and seeing all that time evaporate. So you convince yourself that it wasn't so bad. You romanticize it. You minimize it. You make up excuses. Anything to avoid facing the truth. You built it at the wrong pace. That's the trap of rushing. It makes you trade authenticity for temporary relief. It convinces you that any movement is better than no movement. But it's not. A movement in the wrong direction doesn't bring you closer to your destination. It just tires you out faster. And there's something the Stoics knew 2,000 years ago. You don't control the results. You never have. You can do everything right at the right time in the right way and still not get where you expected. Because life doesn't work like a recipe. It's not linear. It's not predictable. And forcing the steps doesn't give you control over the outcome. It just gives you the illusion of control. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not over external events. Realize this and you will find strength." But we do the opposite. We try to control when things will happen, how they will happen, who will be there when they happen. And when things don't happen the way we planned, we collapse because we confuse control with security and haste with productivity. Heidegger has a concept that seems complicated but is simple: being in time. The idea is this: you are not inside time as if it were a container. You are time. You are made of time. Your existence is temporal. And that means that trying to control time is trying to control the very essence of who you are. It's a battle you will always lose. When you force a decision to be in the right time, you are denying your own temporality. You are trying to be something you are not. You are trying to live a life that does not fit you. And the result? You build an entire life on a false foundation. And one day that foundation cracks. You know that feeling of doing everything right but feeling that something is deeply wrong. That restlessness you can't name. that emptiness you try to fill with more achievements, more goals, more movement, it's not laziness. It's not ingratitude. It's your true self screaming, saying, this isn't mine. This life isn't mine. This pace isn't mine. And the more you ignore that scream, the louder it gets. Until one day, it turns into an existential crisis. It turns into burnout. It turns into depression. It turns into a breakdown that forces you to stop, because your body and mind can no longer pretend that everything is fine. And here's the irony. You spent years running so you wouldn't fall behind. And in the end, it was precisely that race that knocked you down. It was the rush that paralyzed you. It was the fear of falling behind that made you lose even more time. But here's what's liberating. Every time you stop pushing, every time you choose to wait until something really makes sense, you're not wasting time. You're gaining clarity. You're connecting with who you really are. You're building at the right pace, your pace. And things built at the right pace never fall apart, because they were made with intention, not haste. So maybe the question isn't when will it be my turn? Maybe the question is, what am I building while I wait? Because waiting isn't standing still. Waiting is preparing. It's maturing. It's knowing yourself well enough to recognize the right thing when it finally comes along. And when it arrives, not on everyone else's time, but on your time, you'll be ready. Not because you forced it, but because you allowed it. But there's a problem, a big problem. And it hides right where you seek comfort, in the idea that everything has its time, that God knows the right time, that the universe conspires in your favor, that you just need to trust, wait, have faith, and things will work themselves out. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying faith is bad. I'm not saying patience is weakness, but there's a huge difference between active patience and passivity disguised as spirituality. And most people confuse one with the other. Because when you say it's in God's hands, what do you really mean? Are you saying you trust the process, or that you're relieved you don't have to do anything? Are you surrendering or giving up? Are you at peace with the rhythm of life, or are you avoiding the responsibility of building your own? The truth is that everything in God's time has become an emotional anesthetic, a way to turn frustration into conformity, a way to justify inertia, because it's easier to believe that there's a perfect plan waiting for you than to face the fact that you might need to take action. You might need to make a choice. You might need to take a risk. And so you wait, waiting for the sign, waiting for the door to open, waiting for the perfect moment. And while you wait, life goes by, and you remain in the same place. Not because it wasn't the right time, but because you outsourced the meaning of your life to an external force and forgot that you also have a role in it. The Stoics knew this. They did not believe in fate as a passive force that carries you along. They believed in amor fati, love of fate, but not the fate that happens to you, the fate that you build with you. They divided the world into two categories, what is under your control and what is not. And wisdom lay in acting on everything you control and accepting with serenity what you do not control. But accepting is not giving up. Accepting is doing your part and letting go of the outcome. It is planting the seed and trusting that it will grow. But you still need to plant it. You still need to water it. You still need to prepare the soil. The seed doesn't sprout on its own just because it was meant to be. So if you're waiting for the perfect job to appear out of nowhere, but you're not preparing, you're not studying, you're not networking, you're not trusting in the right time, you're avoiding the effort. If you're waiting for the ideal relationship to fall from the sky, but you're not working on yourself, you're not opening up, you're not creating opportunities to connect, you're not respecting your rhythm, you're running away from vulnerability. Because there's a hard truth that no one wants to hear. Sometimes things don't happen because it's not the right time. But sometimes things don't happen because you're not doing your part. And hiding your lack of action behind pretty phrases about divine timing is a sophisticated form of self-sabotage. And look, I get it. I understand why it's tempting. Because taking action is scary. Taking action means taking risks. It means you might fail. It means you might try and it might not work out. And then you no longer have the excuse that it wasn't the right time. Then you have to face the possibility that maybe you're not good enough, prepared enough, worthy enough. And that hurts. It hurts more than waiting. So you choose to wait. And you turn waiting into a virtue, into spirituality, into maturity. But deep down, you know you're afraid. Afraid to try and find out that it doesn't work. Afraid to move and realize that you're alone in this. Afraid to act and have to take responsibility for what happens next. There's a quote by Sartre that sums it all up. Man is condemned to be free. It seems contradictory, but it's not. You are free to choose. And that freedom terrifies you. Because choosing means taking responsibility. It means saying, this was my decision. And if it goes wrong, it was also my decision. So you prefer not to choose. You prefer to wait for something to choose for you, for fate to decide, for God to show you the way. Anything to avoid having to carry the weight of your own freedom. But here's the turning point. You don't have to choose between trusting time and acting in the present. These two things are not opposites, they are complementary. You can believe that things will fall into place and do your part to make them fall into place. You can have faith and have courage. You can respect the process and participate in it. Because life is not something that happens to you. It is something that happens with you. And if you want it to have meaning, you need to be present. You need to choose. You need to build. And if you're reading this now and feeling that tightness in your chest, that feeling that you've been standing still for too long, that you've been waiting too long, that you know you need to do something but don't know where to start, then maybe it's time to stop waiting for the perfect moment and start creating the moment that makes sense. It's not about having all the answers. It's about taking the first step even without them. It's about acting with what you have now, not with what you wish you had. It's about trusting that the path is made by walking, not before walking. And you know what happens when you finally take action? Not everything necessarily gets resolved. You don't necessarily get where you planned, but something changes. You step out of the role of spectator and take on the role of author. You stop being a hostage to time and become a participant in it. And that changes everything. Because the question is no longer when will it arrive. It becomes what can I do today to honor who I want to become. And that question, unlike the first, has an answer. And the answer is always in the now. Because here's the thing. Maybe you're not late. Maybe you're just living at a different pace. And you've confused difference with defect. Think of how many success stories you know that didn't follow the standard script. Van Gogh only started painting at 27 and died at 37. And today he is one of the most influential artists in history. Vera Wang entered the fashion world at 40. Alan Rickman played his first movie role at 46. Julia Child published her first cookbook at 49. Colonel Sanders founded KFC at 62. Stan Lee created Spider-Man at 39. Morgan Freeman landed his first major role at 52. Were these people late? Or were they simply in their own time? The problem is that society has taught you to believe that there is only one valid calendar, that there is a correct sequence of events, that if you didn't do X at Y years old, you missed your chance. And that's a lie. A cruel lie that robs you of the possibility of living your own journey. Because the truth is that each trajectory has its own temporality. Each person needs a different amount of time to mature, to discover who they are, to build what really matters. And forcing that time, whether through social pressure, comparison, or fear, is to distort the result. Think of a tree. You can't force a tree to grow faster by pulling on its branches. You can't rush flowering by picking the buds before they're ready. The tree has its own rhythm, and if you respect that rhythm, it grows strong, with deep roots, capable of withstanding storms. But if you force it, it grows weak, shallow, unstable. It grows to please the eye of the observer, not to support its own weight. And that's exactly what happens to you. When you force time, you grow weak. You build a life that looks beautiful on the outside but crumbles on the inside. Because it had no foundation. Because it was made to impress, not to last. Nietzsche has a beautiful concept called amor fati, love of fate. And it's not about passively accepting what happens to you. It's about loving the time your life needs to become what it is. It's about embracing every phase, every delay, every detour, not as a mistake, but as an essential part of the process. Because what you call delay may actually be preparation. What you call delay may be maturation. What you call standing still may be you finally stopping chasing things that aren't yours and starting to build something that is. But for that, you need to do something radical. You need to stop comparing yourself. And I know it seems impossible. I know social media exists. I know family gatherings happen. I know the whole world seems designed to remind you that you're falling behind. But here's the truth. Those people's lives are not your life. Their pace is not your pace. Their choices are not your choices. And the fact that they've gotten somewhere doesn't mean you're far from getting to your place. It just means you're on different journeys. And do you know what the greatest act of courage is? It's not getting there fast. It's having the humility to go slowly. It's having the strength to say, I'm not going to speed up just to keep up. I'm going to respect my process. I'm going to trust my timing. Because that is revolutionary in a world that has taught you to fear slowness. There's a huge difference between objective delay and subjective delay. Objective delay would be missing the last flight of the day, missing the deadline to sign up for something. These things have real external deadlines. But subjective delay, that's made up. That's you thinking you should already have something because someone your age already has it. But who said so? Who invented that rule? And why do you believe in it as if it were universal law? The truth is that you are only late if you agree to play the game by someone else's rules. But if you create your own rules, if you define what success means to you, what fulfillment means to you, what being on time means to you, then you will never be late, because you will be exactly where you need to be, on your own path. And maybe you need to hear this. It's not failure to take longer. It's not failure to change direction midway. It's not failure to start over. Failure is living your whole life trying to be someone you're not just because it seemed faster, safer, more accepted. There's a story that illustrates this perfectly. A Zen monk was walking through the forest when he came across another monk sitting under a tree. He asked, "What are you doing?" The monk replied, "I'm waiting for enlightenment." The first monk laughed and said, "Enlightenment doesn't come to those who wait. It comes to those who walk." And he continued on his way. Years later, they met again. The monk who had been sitting said, "You were right. I got up and started walking, but I didn't find enlightenment." The first monk smiled, "Because you were looking for it. I was looking for it too. But one day I stopped looking, and it was there. It always had been." Do you understand? It's not about waiting or forcing. It's about walking. It's about being present on the journey. It's about stopping measuring the distance and starting to live the path. So if you're building slowly, that's okay. If you're starting over, that's okay. If you're figuring out who you are while everyone else seems to have already figured it out, that's okay. Because you're not lost. You're finding yourself. And that takes the time it takes. And when you finally accept that, when you finally stop fighting your own pace, something amazing happens. You start living, for real. No longer waiting for what should be happening, but recognizing what is happening, now, at this very moment. And that moment is the only one that has ever existed. And now we come to the last illusion, the deepest one, the one that sustains all the others. And it is this, the idea that you will be happy when you get there, when you finally achieve what you are pursuing. When you are finally at the right time, in the right place, being the right person. But here's the truth that will hurt. You'll never get there. Not because you're not capable, not because the universe is against you, but because there doesn't exist. It never did. It's a mirage, a promise that moves away whenever you get closer. Because there is the future, and the future doesn't exist. Neither does the past. The past is memory. The future is projection. The only thing that really exists, the only thing that has ever existed, is now, this moment. And you've spent your whole life running away from it. You live in when I succeed, when I graduate, when I get a better job, when I find someone, when I buy a house, when I have children, when I retire, when. And while you wait for when, the now is passing. And you're not in it. You're in the imaginary future or the past that won't return, but never here. And you know what's cruelest? Even when you achieve the when, you don't stay there. You celebrate for 2 days and then you're already looking for the next when. Because you've been conditioned to believe that life is a ladder, that you always have to be climbing, that to stop is to regress, that to be satisfied is to settle. So you never rest, you never breathe, you never look around and say, "Here, now, this is enough." Because if you do that, you're afraid. Afraid that being satisfied means giving up on growth. Afraid that accepting the present means renouncing the future. But it doesn't. It means the opposite. There's a Zen story that illustrates this perfectly. A man was being chased by a tiger. He ran to the edge of a cliff and began to climb down a vine. He looked up. The tiger was waiting. He looked down. Another tiger was waiting. And then he saw a strawberry growing on the hillside. He picked the strawberry and ate it. And it was delicious. That's life. You are always between the past that will never return and the future that has not yet arrived. And in the middle of it all, there is the strawberry, the present moment, the only real thing. But you are so busy looking at the tigers that you don't even notice the strawberry is there. And it is delicious. But you will never know if you don't stop running. Sartre said that existence precedes essence, that you are not born with a predefined purpose. You become who you are through the choices you make now, not tomorrow, not when you're ready. Now, every moment is a chance to create who you are. But if you're always living in the future, you never create anything. You just wait. And there is a Buddhist concept that sums it all up. Samsara, the cycle of suffering caused by attachment. And the greatest attachment you have is not to things. It is to time that does not exist, to the past that you cannot change, to the future that you cannot control. And as long as you are stuck in this cycle, you will suffer, because you will always want to be somewhere else than here. But what if you stopped? What if for a second you allowed this moment to be enough? Not because you gave up on growing, but because you understood that growth only happens in the present, that building only happens now, that living only happens here. This doesn't mean ignoring the future. It means stopping living in it. It means planning, but not getting attached to the plan. It means having goals, but not making them a condition for your happiness. Because if your happiness depends on something that hasn't happened yet, you'll never be happy. You'll always be someone waiting to start living. Think about how many times you've said, when that happens, then I'll be able to relax. When I finish the project, when I pay off my debts, when I achieve that. And you achieve it, and you don't relax, because there's already another when waiting for you. It's a never-ending trap, and you only get out of it when you realize that relaxing is not something you earn in the future. It's something you choose in the present. And the question that changes everything is this: what can I do today that honors who I want to become? Not when will I get there, not why haven't I gotten there yet, but what is in my hands right now? This question brings you back. It takes you out of the imaginary future and puts you in the real present. And in the real present, you have power. You can choose, you can act, you can build, not the perfect life, but the possible life. And the possible life, when lived with presence, is more than enough. Because the truth is, you're not waiting for life to begin. Life has already begun. It began when you were born, and it's happening right now. As you read this, as you breathe, while you feel. Life is not something that will happen when you finally get there. Life is this. It is this moment, and the next, and the next. And if you don't learn to be present in them, you will spend your whole life waiting for something that is already happening. There is a quote by Lao Tzu that says, if you are depressed, you are living in the past. If you are anxious, you are living in the future. If you are at peace, you are living in the present. And you know this is true, because every time you manage to be truly present, when you are with someone you love, when you are doing something that completely absorbs you, when you are simply existing without thinking about anything else, you don't suffer, you don't feel behind, you don't compare yourself, you just are. And that just being is the liberation you're looking for. It's not in your job, it's not in your relationship, it's not in your house, your car, your trip. It's here. It always has been. You are just too busy looking elsewhere. You'll realize something liberating. When you stop living in the future, the present ceases to be unbearable. It ceases to be just an obstacle between you and happiness. It becomes the place where happiness exists. Not because everything is perfect, but because you are here, whole, present, alive. And when that happens, the question, when will it be my turn, loses its meaning. Because you realize, it's already your turn. It always has been. You were just waiting for permission that was never going to come. External confirmation that now finally you can live. But the permission was always yours, and the moment was always this one. So here's the last question, the one that matters, the one that will decide whether you keep running or whether you finally stop. What if you just stopped chasing the right time? What if you accepted that there is no universal right time, that each person carries a unique temporality, and that this temporality is not a defect, it is humanity? Because in the end, what is consuming you is not the delay. It is the belief that you should be somewhere else. It is the refusal to accept that you are exactly where you need to be to become who you are becoming. It's resistance to the present. And resistance to the present is the root of all suffering. But what if you let go? What if you stopped fighting your own rhythm? What if you allowed your life to unfold in its own time? Not Instagram time, not your family's time, not society's time, but its own time. This is not conformity. It is not giving up. It's courage, because it requires you to face the hardest truth of all. You have no control over when things will happen. You only have control over what you do while they don't happen. And what you do while you wait defines who you will be when they finally arrive. And there's a quote from Rumi that sums it all up. What you seek is seeking you, but not in a mystical way, in a practical way. The things that are meant for you will find you when you're ready to receive them, not when you force it. Not when you pretend to be ready, but when you really are. And how do you get ready? You stop running. You start building. You stop chasing external milestones and start cultivating internal ones. You ask, who do I want to be? Instead of what should I have? You measure progress by how well you are getting to know yourself, not by how close you are getting to what others expect of you. And when you do that, something changes. It's not that the anxiety disappears. It's not that you'll never feel like you're behind again. But it loses its power to decide who you are. It becomes just a passing feeling, not a truth about you. You start saying things like, I'm not behind, I'm on my own time. And it's not self-deception, it's not denial, it's acceptance. It's recognizing that your journey doesn't have to look like anyone else's to be valid, that taking time isn't failing, that starting over isn't regressing, that being in process isn't being lost. And you know what happens when you finally accept your pace? You stop wasting energy fighting it, and all that energy you used to spend comparing yourself, blaming yourself, forcing yourself, that energy is freed up, and you can use it to build, to create, to live. You stop being a hostage to other people's calendars, and you become the author of your own story. And authors don't rush. They write at the pace the story demands. They respect the process. They trust that each chapter has its time, and that the ending only makes sense because the middle was lived, not skipped. There's a poem by Kavafis called Ithaca that talks about exactly that. It says, "When you begin your journey to Ithaca, pray that the road is long, full of adventures, full of knowledge. Don't be afraid. Enjoy every port, every city, every experience. And when you finally arrive in Ithaca, you will realize Ithaca gave you the journey. Without it, you would not have left. And if it seems poor, it wasn't Ithaca that deceived you. You became rich with everything you experienced along the way. Do you understand? The destination was never the point. The journey is the point. And you spent your whole life obsessed with arriving that you forgot to walk. You forgot to look around. You forgot to feel the wind, to see the landscapes, to talk to the people who crossed your path. Because you were running, always running. And now, you're exhausted, and you haven't even arrived. So maybe everything won't arrive at the exact moment. Maybe things will take longer than you'd like. Maybe you'll have to wait longer, work harder, trust more. But maybe, just maybe, you'll stop needing it to arrive, because you'll realize that life isn't out there ahead of you. It's here, now, in this moment. And this moment is the only one you have. And when you understand that, something profound settles within you. It's not relief. It's not euphoria. It's peace. The peace of someone who has stopped fighting with time. The peace of someone who has accepted that to be human is to be temporary. And that to be temporary is to be imperfect, incomplete, constantly changing. And that this is not a flaw. It is the essence of existence. You no longer need to prove anything. You no longer need to achieve anything to feel worthy. You are already worthy. You always have been. Time does not define your value. Achievements do not define your value. You define your value by how you live each day, by how you treat yourself, by how you respect your process. And there's one thing no one has told you. You're not competing with anyone. Not with friends who are already married. Not with colleagues who already have established careers. Not with the edited versions of strangers' lives on the internet. The only person you're competing with is yourself from yesterday. And the only question that matters is, am I closer to myself today than I was yesterday? If the answer is yes, you're on the right track. And if the answer is no, that's okay too, because tomorrow you have another chance. And the day after tomorrow. And the day after that. You have the rest of your life to become who you want to be. And that rest of your life, it happens one day at a time, one moment at a time. And every moment is an opportunity to choose, to keep running or to start living. You're reading this now for a reason. Maybe because you need to hear this. You're not late, you're alive. And as long as you're alive, you're in the right time, your time, the only one that matters. Now the question is, what are you going to do with it? Let me ask you something. In what area of your life do you still believe you are late? And what would change if you accepted that maybe you're just at your own pace? If you've made it this far, you've already taken a step beyond most people. You watch the videos, you reflect on each idea. Now the question is, how far do you want to go with this? If you want to take the next step and truly apply this knowledge to your life, the White Rabbit codes are ready for you. The link is in the video description. Remember, success is a decision. The choice is yours. Count on me and follow the White Rabbit.